Hello, and welcome back to our weekly astrological update, our weekly weather, astrology weather. And today's the 26th, Tuesday the 26th. But I have the chart backed up a couple of days, and I'm going to get there in just a second. But I want to draw your attention over to this side. I want to do just a little astrological tip because we're going to talk a lot about aspects today, and I really like aspects. I'm kind of an aspect geek because that is giving us the flow. I mean, though it's the resonance. If you have something at, um, you have something at like 1 degree and then another something at 1 degree, it's going to resonate the same on some level. Um, so that's what's really important is some of these harmonics between the signs, between the planets, between the signs, between the houses, between things. This is the conversation, and we're trying to interpret um, vibrations of energy. That's really what this is. You've got to think multiplexed and multi-leveled. You got to think in 3, 4, 5D kind of. But it definitely builds brain cells. You have to hold several concepts at the same time because we're reinterpreting or we're interpreting different parts of reality with this tool. So let me draw your attention over here to this side. These are the cardinal signs. We have Aries here on the left, and then always opposite. You have an opposite there, and this would be Libra. And then we have Cancer, and then opposite Cancer is Capricorn. So very basic, these are oppositions, right? Like this. And then if we go from one to the next, that would be a square. And then let me just show you, just so we have this in our heads a little bit better. Um, so we have this going this way, that is what would be 180 degrees, right? So that's like, this whole circle going all the way around is 360. So if we have half of it, this half, we just cut it in half. We have half the pie, half of it, this is cut into 180, 180 on the top, 180 on the bottom, or however way you slice it. And then we can slice it this way too, right? We can slice it up and down. So if we looked at it that way, that we would see the another 180, but we've got them crossing here. So if we have to cut the 180 in half, and that's what we get this square right here. This is 90 degrees, right? So yeah, right, 90 degrees here. This is a 90-degree angle. And then it would be all the way around. 90, 90 is 180, and then another 90 is 270, and another 90 is 360, and we go all the way around. Okay? So that being said, this is this T square. This is your grand cross, because we're looking at it like this too, right? This is all square. These are all square. Pardon my bad drawing. Um, but you can see that these are squares. Now when we start dissecting this, we've got different geometries going on. We've got this square here, and then we've got these two planets showing that they are in that square angle. So whenever you're looking at something, you think of, the cardinal signs. Think of, Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. These are cardinal. Anything cardinal to itself is going to be a hard aspect. It'll either be conjunct, obviously, if it's in the same sign, or it'll be either opposition or square. Each one only has one opposition, where each one has two squares, right? Okay. That being said, if we go to the fixed signs, like, let me just change color. Um, all right. So if we have like the fixed signs, and this is, pardon if you understand this astrology already, but it's just a good review. So after every cardinal sign will be a fixed sign. Well, the cardinal one, the next will be a fixed. So we had Taurus and Leo and Scorpio, and then Aquarius. These are all fixed signs. So the same rule applies. They will also be square to each other, opposites. Like here, Taurus to Scorpio is square, and Leo to Aquarius is square, and we have this square angle right there, right? Got that. And then we got the squares. Like, see, if you do this whole kind of a thing with different colors, it makes this cool geometry. And I could select it, but I don't want to bore you with the whole details. And we can go around. Let me just do one more so you can get this. If we do the next one, so we have cardinal, fixed, mutable. Now we're going to have, oops, there we go. And we're going to have the next sign, Gemini. And then we go cardinal, fixed, mutable after Leo. The next sign would be Virgo, right? And then we go cardinal, fixed, mutable, and that would be Sagittarius, right? And then we go cardinal, fixed, mutable, and the last one, mutable, is Pisces. And these are all square to each other, right? Yeah. Okay, so we got this kind of cool pattern going on. So whenever you see a mutable sign to a mutable sign, again, it can be either opposite or square, and then fixed to fixed, either opposite or square, again, unless it is its own sign. All right, so that kind of it helps you to see all this stuff fairly quickly. This is one thing. Okay, now I'm going to this week, but I have to back up a couple of days because we just came off of that Virgo new moon, and this is like a day past it because the moon moves about 12 degrees a day. This I'm just averaging, right? So it would go 12, and 12 is 24, and half of 12 is 6, and that's 30. So that would be 2.5 days. So you can see the moon here is at 19, and it's like it was about a day and a few hours when it made that actual conjunction. Okay. That being said, and I could have did it, I think I showed you last week, but this is even just kind of even more profound and very cool. So the moon, moved through all of these things here that the sun is going to go through, like right here. It's like right away, and it moved through all kinds of energies. But let me just back up. So just to show you kind of how busy this weekend was and how what we're coming into this week, a bit of a tizzy of things. So anyways, the quick energy just changed when both sun and moon moved into Virgo. Boom! It just was like, I think it's pretty dramatic. But while that happened, like this, like within the day after the sun, moved there, it's like when it hit 1 degree Virgo, now we're at a mutable sign. It is making, okay, so go around and look for everything at that same degree. Then we can figure out what it is. And then the conversation, right? So it's like, okay, we see this 1 degree to Pluto, and then we see it making another 1 degree to Neptune. And it was just, at first it had made that 0 degree to Saturn, right? It would have been just like, hours before. So first thing, and then over here, then you can see it's also going to make something over to Uranus, right? We can just see that the 1 degree is either 0 or 1 or 2 or whatever, but we see zeros and ones right now. All right. Um, so if we just figure out like what the degrees would be and then add or subtract. So we know that Virgo would be opposite of Pisces, right? So Pisces is the opposite. So that's our 180. And then if we have a sign either way of it, we can minus that 30 degrees either side, right? So if we take that 180 and minus the 30 to go backwards from, 0 Pisces to 0, or I should, yeah, I could say backwards, whatever, to this next side here where Pluto is, that would be 150 degrees. And then if we go the other side of it, it just so happens to be, there's a planet over there at that same 30 degrees from that center. So that's like another, it would be 150. Or if you add it, it would be 210. But my point is, I just want you to see that we have this 150 degree or this inconjunct or quincunx angle. It's like it's not, that's that funny one, right? It's inconjunct angle. So anyway, move out of the way. My point is that we start looking at the angles, we can start seeing the patterns and the harmony or the disharmony. And we should just have a little voice in the back of your head when you see this 150 and have it say, nothing in common. All right, that doesn't make it good or bad. Some things that have nothing in common kind of get along better than other things that have nothing in common. Um, But that being said, it's this difficult. It's not like you just jiving and you're like, hey, hey, how you doing? Yeah, you've been doing this. I've been doing that too. Oh, yeah, we got this conversation, got this thing going on. This is nothing. It's like it's flat. You know, it's just there's nothing in common. And what do I mean by that? Let's look at the sun and to see because the sun is being hit or focused energy from two different things. It has nothing in common with Neptune right now or Pluto. We talked about this in other ways, but I want to point it out. We have to sometimes understand how these things happen and happen in life. It's like, okay, we're looking at this chart. All right, so we see the sun. The sun is just, that's the core of essence of everything. I like to look a lot at the sun and the moon, and then use the other planets as coloring. So we can see that we have the sun here just moving into Virgo. So we have a sense of um, like ourself, we want to get organized, we want to get moving ahead, we want to focus on things, we want to clear things up, we want to move things along, we want to get all the details together. Um, we don't have a lot of patience, we're a little sarcastic, we're a little edgy, we're helpful and courteous until it just gets annoying. Okay, so there's the sun. It just moves into here, and then all of a sudden it just kind of runs up real quick against Saturn. That was the first thing. So it is would have been making that 150-degree to Saturn to start with. So it's like, oh, I have nothing in common with this. So, it's like Saturn is not giving me much, even though it's in Aries. It's like don't have a lot in common here. It's just wanting to move on, or it wants to give me new structure without going over the old. And then it moves really quickly into both a not good, I mean, a nothing in common with Pluto, the depths. It's like, I can't understand this. This is not making sense. What? What? And then Neptune, here's the illusion. Here's what I want you to think. Here's the dream. It can go either way. So here's the whole gist of all of this. Virgo being very discerning. I think a lot of things are hitting the populace now that we have to discern and we have to really pick out. We have to, we have a difficult things. A lot of people, if you're not already hep to things, I think it's more difficult. I think if you've been riding along with how things are, it's obvious. But then it's like your own life as well. It's like your logical, hey, this would work best for all of us. Why don't you just frickin' comply? Just get it together. But there's the angst, there's the rub. So there's the two planets on the bottom or the conversation. They're together like conspiring against you, or against your ego, against the sun, or there's things they haven't considered. This is the yod. This is like a finger of God. This is a difficult energy. So Pluto, the depths, in Aquarius, unusual, higher point of view, seeing things from a different light, but getting to the bottom of something. There's really a want to get to the bottom of something. And then Neptune, it's still in Aries. So it's starting to put some structure and clear up this, but can the integrity be maintained? Or is it going to go sideways? Kind of an energy. So this is just kind of like what, right when we're just like, new moon, make new intentions, get going, get things organized, and then you're running up against, maybe people that don't want to change, that want it the way it used to be, that want it, but they're a bit disillusioned. I think here's now coming into some problems of this week, but and some solutions too. So this is the major energy as we come along into this week. Um, that being said, we want to look up at the top and see the moon, going over the south node in Virgo. This is happening every month, right? The moon goes around and it hits the south node, and this is something that we have to deal with every month, but the degrees change, and this is like this is how would I say it? It's just almost two-thirds, I mean, it's just, well, like what would it could because they're retroing, they're like a third or two-thirds of the way through. So it's just almost, um, it's more than halfway kind of an energy. But anyway, it's the moon in Virgo in the South Node. It's like wanting to, it's the moon is your emotions, your moods, your feelings, and the South Node is your past, your karma. It's kind of like I've been there, done that, but I'm running up against resistance of stuff that I've done in the past that's not quite right. And that's what this yod and the sun and all this kind of stuff is about. Now, one other little thing that kind of started it, the sun is now also, or was, and it still is, this is going to be around, this energy. But the sun right now here is making a little how would I say it? It's getting something new. It's something out of the blue with Uranus. As it hit into Virgo, that is two signs away from or I should say, what am I doing? It's what I want to bring up over here. We've got no, I drew this in wrong. I didn't want to put this way. This is a trine here. Hold on one second. All right, I had to get this set back up. I was sidetracked playing with this new feature. We've got this other little pattern going on here, which is a interesting pattern. The sun is come up against kind of a harsh angle. We've got a mutable sign and then another mutable sign. So we know mutable to mutable is 90. I know I'm reading my notes. I'm like, what did I do? I wrote that in wrong. Um, but we have half of that on either side too. We've got this, you can see these two kind of patterns are similar, but these triangles are spread out. All right. So we've got this 90 here. So this is a nice aspect with the sun, right? Yeah. It's like it's tense. I'm being sarcastic. This is a tense aspect. So we have Uranus crazy in Gemini, out of the blue, throwing something at organized, wanting a list Virgo, right? So this is like somebody throwing litter and disregarding and on to the next. And this is like, hey, wait a minute, don't set that down. I just cleaned. Kind of an energy. And then over to making a kind of a well, it is. It's half of that. It's 45 harsh angle over to, I would say it's a half square to Jupiter. So we have this angst too. We have Jupiter wanting to relax, being in this nice sign of Cancer. And it's like, no, get your feet off the couch, get your feet off that. The sun is like, look, I just cleaned, don't be making more messes. And then, it's just making this hard for the Virgo sun to get anything done. It's got a lot of resistance. It's got a lot of harsh, hard to move energies, things stuck from the past. So this is the energy that we're coming into this week with, and it's a very intense, I think. Let me get rid of this so we can see now. All right. Oh, that's cool. Just so I can get rid of it there. All right, now. But it was just kind of a lot of getting those patterns in. But I think that sets the theme of the whole week. All right, moving on. Yesterday, big news, Venus changes signs. All right, so now we have that energy, the tension, but now we've got Venus changes signs, so we get this little different energy. And Venus is like, I like what I like, and then it again, as it changes sign, anything moving into that 0 degrees, we've got all of those aspects again. So, all of those things, but they're different because, of course, they're in a different sign. So, let's get this one. All right. So if we have um, Venus over to Uranus, let me just do it this way. So this is two signs away, right? So this is a masculine sign, and then we're another masculine sign. So this is a sextile. So this is kind of maybe things coming out of the blue. Um, Interest, something you didn't think of with with whatever Venusian is love or money, basically, whatever you're dealing with your likes, what you want, your relationships, whatever you're working on. Maybe something's coming up out of the blue you didn't quite see. Could be good or bad, who knows yet. And then we have Venus over here to the moon. This is the moon is quick moving, but it's going to be two signs the other way, another 60 degrees. So look at how we kind of got the energies of two planets focusing on the one. That's what I wanted a big part of what I wanted to show you how we're coming into this week. It's almost like this two is positioning toward the one, whether it's a good angle or a bad angle, kind of, a harsh angle or not. So if we have this right here, then these two are going to be trine. We look at this as like we ask what the element is. So we would say air. So moon is in air, 1 degree air, and Uranus is in 1 degree air. Huh, interesting. And then now we also have another trine, moon when it hit, yesterday, when it hit at 1 degree, when it changed signs, it also made a trine over to Pluto. So there is some emotions, wanting to get to the bottom of something, wanting to confront something. And then we have this trine, which is going to be there for a while. This is one I was thinking of before. So look at this interesting kite formation, right? So we've got a trine, and then we have this, the sextile. And then this, of course, would be opposition here. Right. So look at this yesterday. We had this interesting kite formation in the sky. And where, as the moon made that. So the moon went into that. Moon makes a lot of, triggers and makes a lot of the aspects. When this is gone, half of this will be, this side over here won't be there, but we still have that energy, because Mars is close by. Mars is, we can tweak it a little bit. It's not going to be as perfect. He's all at like the nice 0 and 1 degrees. But anybody also born on this day, born in this time here, would have this kite in the chart. So we can see, this is just that this is somebody's birthday, always. So this is kind of an interesting, um, it's like a good news, bad news. It's like a flow. It's negotiating. It's being diplomatic. It's trying to reach a settlement. It's intellectual air signs with Venus there at the apex, kind of, Venus and Pluto, but it's kind of being with all of it. Um, Kind of gets to dictate the flow. It's like with, if you don't like it, if you're not into it, you can be crappy about the whole thing, or you can be kind of high-minded, right? If it's not totally in your favor, are you going to handle it with grace and dignity, or are you going to pout and be a brat, right? So this is the kind of energy. It's like, but sometimes you have to pout and be a brat to make your point. Sometimes people don't hear you unless unless you have to lower your tone to where they're at, maybe put it that way. Um, yeah, so this is definitely a real, and when the moon here in Libra, this time right now, this next couple days here, it's like it's really, I think, indicative of like a big cultural change. I mean, a lot of things are coming up, we know that are social, political, you know, um, really forcing us to look at things, and I think things are clicking into place that are a big cultural change that is going to be in place. All right, this is definitely, we haven't even gotten into this week, but this is sets the tone of the whole week, and I think we talked a little bit about it last week, but Venus moving into into that whole symphony of energy is really huge. And then coming into today, a lot of these things just kind of overlap, and there's, it's busy days. So, we have, those aspects are perfecting. See, we have Venus is, it's more perfect, that, that what I just showed you. So we still have this opposition, and, this is other pattern here going on. All right. Oops, show it to you. So we have that funneling of that energy of this on Venus too. Just go back to it. Again, just looking at this. So we have this here. Let me get a better one. Sorry. Okay, so we have, there we go. So yep. So we have this over here, and then we have it over to Venus, right? When the moon, we still have this in play. So this energy, we have this opposition, and we have a trine, and then we have a sextile. So this is, we get a wanting to get to the bottom of it. But here with Neptune, this is what could be either, at the best side, Neptune is it's like the dream, but sometimes the dream can get messed up in the delusion. That's the only thing. So, here we've got the, Venus with all these aspects. We've got awareness of something. We've got awareness around like the Plutonic system, right? Venus is there. It's aware. It's in Leo. It wants to say something and it's obsessed. It wants to get to the bottom of it, wants to get it known, it wants to get it cleared up. And then we also kind of have like a little compassion versus stricter boundaries going on here. Compassion, Venus, stricter boundaries, loosening up, Saturn. And then, we got the Saturn, Neptune, and Aries here. So this is just a lot of stuff. I think it's a real a dynamic day. We also have the moon going over Mars. We got angst. We can fly off the handle. We could get caught up in our ego, right? Our ego, something can trigger our emotions. Something can play on us, some emotion, some relationship. Um, I know it happened to me today, but it's like, and sometimes you have to speak with emotion and with conviction to get your point across, to make an impact. But it's like you can't get hung up and hang on to a lot of these things as they go by. Very dynamic time we have. So as we move into, let's turn that off. Okay, so that's going on. Yeah, this is interesting. It's like I got to take this away. I mean, it's going to be in place, but let me move it out of the way. And as we move into Wednesday, we got the moon. Another interesting thing here. We got the moon. Let's see, 9 in the morning. Let me go back a little bit. Time. Just because I want to just again show you we have the same angst all week in so many different ways. Let's see, where's the moon? There. And with Pluto, well, let's see. Actually, it was earlier today. I already showed it to you. That's fine. Okay, let's just stay with this. There's so much. I mean, we can just get so into it. But one thing on Wednesday, we have that moon with the Pluto Venus, so just watch that. And then as we go into Thursday, it's just a little bit quieter. The moon is finishing up, but yet in Libra. But then when it goes into Scorpio, eh, it's always just I don't know what I say. It's a bit intense. You could examine your emotions. You could, kind of feel now um, more because it's, under the magnifying glass. Um, it's intense, right? And then it's going to, uh, just maybe drag on those emotions a little bit. All right. Thursday, though, this is again fairly quieter. What else is going on? I told you about that. Sunday, Thursday, Friday. Okay. Going into Friday. Um, well, let's see. We have the nicest thing is maybe the trine, I would think. The trine over, we have the water and water. So we can, again, looking for numbers. It's like a sextile, moon sextiling. You think of feminine sign, it's feminine sign with the south node, and then a feminine side with Jupiter. So again, this type of triangular energy. So, we have a lot funneling down on the south node. So what do I mean by that? Same kind of energy. It's like drawing us. We really have to, hope I got that right. Think about what things are kind of poignant. We're getting things pointed out to us. See, again, look at, I mean, we have these like arrows, they're different shapes, but look at here. It's like our south, these are, Jupiter expansive, the moon, your feelings, south node, making right with your karma, getting rid of things you don't need, putting things in order and moving on, basically. That's what this one's all about. But you see how we're funneling, it's like we get again these two outer ones funneling toward the center one. All right. Sometimes you got to say a whole lot up front to get across the idea, then it flows a little bit better. That was sort of more how this is all week. So as you're going through the week and you kind of forget all this astrology that I'm bringing up, remember parts of it, or you go back or part of it, it's like the point is like things are going to be funneling toward you, and you might have two contenders that are either in cahoots or somehow you're standing out differently. on some measure, in some manner. And sometimes you may need to bend and change, and other times you might stand your ground. Again, depending on how these aspects are with you. But that's kind of the point of the whole week. That's, what I'm seeing. Um, Friday, yeah, we had the moon. That's what I told you about. Again, a lot of this is just really, um, it's a nice hopeful day, with the moon trining Jupiter. That's a real nice thing to give us, more hope to kind of clear out a lot of the stuff that we've been through. We, might feel a little bit better. There's more potential, but we got to watch out for misleading ourselves because we still have that Neptune, sextile Uranus, which will be with us for a little while. All right, what else is moving on? Saturday, kind of got an interesting weekend. Um, the moon goes into Sagittarius, which is always kind of fun, but we again and then it's going to bring this big fire trine coming up. Just a bunch of busy stuff this week. Moon hits here, right? And then it's going to be over to Venus. So here's like one part of the fire to fire. Those are always trine. And then we got this other fire to fire, right? Over here, trine. And then these would be trine. So the moon is coming into making a lot of intricate things. It's making part of that kite pattern we saw this week. It's getting part of these yods. It's right in here with this grand, fire trine. Yeah, we had, a lot of, we had the water or the air trine, that was in. So, yeah, now we got the fire trine. So this could be very interesting. This could be, um, your moon in air, your moon in the fire sign, moon in Sagittarius is kind of maybe like looking for solutions, maybe looking more philosophically. I think it's probably the better way of this. Venus in that beginning of Leo is just starting to like I like what I like and this is how it is, and then it's like standing up and I think it's a being a good thing with this Neptune and Saturn duo here. um, it can contend. It can keep that. I think this balance of bringing structure to nebulous things, bringing structure to your dream, putting energy into what you want to see happen, help iron out problems, and then the Neptune can soften the overlordness, the over the top strict, ultra strict ways of Saturn. But it's like be careful, like we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and just um, make everything new. Kind of, there's still good old bones of things that need to be kept in place. So that is, I think, a big part of this energy. I like that trine. But then we got the moon. Um, well, let me go. It will be opposing. I like to do this. I forgot that this one for you. It will be opposing. Oh, it didn't do it. I had the wrong tool. Anyway, you get the idea. It's kind of like this big arrow in the sky. Anyway, but you can see this that big energy here of the moon hits up over there against Uranus. So this could be really intense. We got this fire energy, and then we have the moon hitting up in here, making that intense square over to Uranus. Your emotions can get a rise. Something can just hit you. Something can come to you clear out of the blue. You might sense something. Um, that's the type of energy that it is. All right, Sunday, coming into Sunday, everything else to see. Yeah, definitely be exciting. We could use our voice for good, but again, we have to stick to integrity, of course, and not be schmoozed or disillusioned. This is what I was going over that. And then Sunday, um, what do I have for you? The we already talked about that one. Okay. Here we go. Yeah. We already talked about this. No, wait, no, we've got a little bit of Mars, as it's coming into a square. We look at, I'm trying to find my new tool. It's here. I have to click it on and then click it off each time. All right. So Mars square over to Jupiter. it's not there yet. It'll be another day. Let's see, when is it exactly? But we're definitely picking up on that energy, and I wanted to bring it out. 16 Monday, and then Jupiter goes, of course. Look at that. There. It won't be till next Thursday, but we're coming into that energy um of this energy, coming into the energy of the energy, coming into the energy of Mars. Again, Mars is dressed up and has to speak eloquently. It has to wear a suit and tie. It has to put that energy into some public relations. It has to be nice. It has to be polite. And with Jupiter there, I think it can be a much more purposeful energy than if it were that square were in another way. Um, Jupiter's expansive. And again, if Mars, squares are dynamic, they can get things done. So if you have to do something, clean up, dress up, play the part. If you're going to do it, play the part. Don't just do it half-assed, That's kind of how this means. If you want to do something right, put your ducks in a row. Sometimes you can do stuff by the seat of your pants. Sometimes you can shoot a video just because the content is so good and have crappy audio and it's jerking around and cameras moving, but your content is so good or people just want it or whatever. Okay, fine. But it's better to have clear audio and a good video and something not moving, and to have that. And then sometimes it takes a little planning to pull that off. I think that's what this we're coming into. So we kind of a ruckus of getting other stuff in order, clearing things out, getting the last bit of attention off of certain things, or putting, sometimes you have to do the confrontation and then you put in order. It's like, look, if you don't do this, here's my bottom line. But then you got to get ready to put in place your bottom line. You can't wimp out. You can't, fold or whatever. So this is the crux. This is a kind of a busy week. This is the end of this kind of a dynamic end of this month, before we move into next month. And, Monday we're coming into the 1st of September. So we're going to start to, change that theme as we head into the new month. So we'll be back next week when this is starting to heat up, but this is, big energies coming along. Again, when you're looking around, start to see these, at look at the degrees, and what we can see this one here, we can see 16 and over to, we've seen 18 over here with with the nodes. We can go this way, right? And we could notice, okay, that's masculine, that's feminine. Mars is cardinal, and the North Node is mutable. Um, this the Mars is uh, air, and the North Node is water. Okay, nothing in common, right? One's water, one's air, one's cardinal, one's mutable, one's masculine, one feminine, nothing in common. So what we learned, what is that? Oops, that is that 150-degree angle. Anyway, that's that quincunx. So a little bit of, this is, that conversation is now kind of making a little angst with the North Node, but um, each time I get that. Okay. So your energies, maybe it's like, but I don't want to move out of my comfort zone. I don't want to get rid of my stuffed bear that I had for at River, whatever. It's like, okay, this stuff has got to go, this is what's got to realign. That energy's got to be put, forward, um, maybe into more compassionate, it's not just cut and dry as well. But then we have Jupiter. Here's the other part of an energy that we can see. Look at another pointing. Look at, we got these two, pointing down toward the North Node. So Mars and Jupiter together, the square, because we're seeing cardinals. So this is a square right here. And then we have this is an interesting triangle here. We get, because we have an inconjunct on one side and a trine on the other. But anyway, these are all just patterns of energies. These are geometric patterns and shapes. This type of trine or triangle is a different one than many of them that I showed you today. These angles change, but these are all conversations. It's like three people all like on an acre, right? And they're like maybe there's different elevations, and somebody's, up on the ridge, and then somebody's down in the bottom, and somebody's over at the house, right? And they're triangulated and they're trying to talk. It's like, well, how well can they hear each other? If they were all on flat land and all even and stuff, that might be easier, than if there's dips and valleys. So that's kind of how these conversations are. And if you have things at these degrees, these are all making some of these more pertinent to you as opposed to you just going along in the collective. So some of these things, each week stir up more for some of us than others, but the whole energy is, I think this next week is a lot of things just focusing in on certain energies. So that being said, have a very good week, and we'll see everybody next time. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.